I want to talk to you something that is both personal and policy. And I want to start with the personal. I'm a Jew, and my father, who's pictured in this photo as a young man carrying his violin, a young boy actually, he was born in what was then Palestine. This was before the founding of the State of Israel. And he fought in the Jewish underground, the Haganah. In fact, he fought along Yitzhak Rabin. Most of my family, his side of the family, was brought up and born in Israel, and half my family still lives there. And I lived in Israel for 7 years in the 1970s. This is a newspaper memorial of a cousin of mine. His name was Michael Golan. He was killed in the 1973 war. He was a security agent for El Al, undercover security agent, and he was killed. That was his day job. He was killed in the 1973 war, and his brother was wounded, and his family was never the same. And when I was a young man there, I also did my duty as a civilian. I was a medic in a hospital, an orderly. And this is a picture of a young man, that's me, from a newspaper article right after an attack in Israel, a terrorist attack that happened in 1978 on the coastal road. It's fairly infamous in Israeli history. And I say all this because my experience as a young man was watching and seeing people that I loved die, watching families torn apart and violence done in a way that no human being should go through. And for that very reason, I have been a long supporter, solid supporter, for a two-state solution in the Middle East. I believe that there should be a strong Palestinian state, economically viable, a just peace that makes sure that the Palestinians can have a strong and viable state next to a secure Israel. And so at this moment, there's a debate raging, and I want to say two things. First of all, I support the President and the Secretary of State for their condemnation of the Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to allow 1,600 new units to be built in East Jerusalem, which does one thing and one thing only. It pushes the prospects of peace further off into the future, which nobody can afford. Not the Palestinians, not the Israelis, and not the whole world. But our administration needs to go a lot further, because there's a humanitarian crisis that is happening every single day that is not being talked about, and that is the blockade against Gaza. There are 1.5 million Palestinians, the entire population of Gaza, who are essentially trapped, and they are being punished for the armed actions of Palestinian armed groups. But collective action, collective punishment, is illegal under international law. That blockade is preventing basic food, electricity, fuel, and, as important, medical supplies from reaching the people of Gaza. There are children who are suffering, hundreds of thousands of children, not to mention adults, in Gaza every single day because of this blockade. So today I am calling on the administration to call on Israel to put an immediate end to this blockade. And we are going to put up a petition on our website at jonathantasini.com, a petition that's being circulated by Amnesty International to call for the end of the blockade. I have signed that petition proudly. Now, I've spoken about this issue long before I ran for the United States Senate. And I can promise you this, I will not be silent. On April 4th, in a couple of weeks, there will be an anniversary of a great speech that was given by Dr. Martin Luther King, who stood in Riverside Church and said, "Silence is betrayal." He talked about that in the context of the Vietnam War. We cannot be silent about what is happening in the Middle East. To be silent is to betray our basic sense of humanity, our basic morality, and our ethical principles. The blockade must end. I will not be silent today, and I will not be silent if I'm elected to the United States Senate.